When I look at LSU and Florida, Joe, there are a couple of questions that I have. Number one, is Caleb Banks back? I think that is the number one question in this game, because if he is, what is LSU's interior offensive line? Joe, they have not been good. At least they weren't good last week versus when Braylon Moore went down. I'm not trying to report anything here. I think the feeling coming out of Baton Rouge at the current moment is that Braylon Moore might be good to go come Saturday. If that is ultimately the case, I do feel better about that situation. The National Offensive Lineman of the Week, the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week at center, does Braylon Moore come back? LJ McCray is out for the rest of the season after a surgery with Florida. Joe, last year what happened in this game is that they generated 7 sacks on Garrett Nussmeier. Caleb Banks destroyed LSU, and then he destroyed Ole Miss, and then he destroyed Florida State, and he kept going on. That's why a lot of people like yourself, I think, had Caleb Banks as number one interior defensive lineman in the country.
Yep.
When I look at it, that is the game. LSU offensively has been anemic. They don't have an identity, in my opinion, right now. They cannot push the ball down the field like they were. I think Garrett is working through some things. I don't think he's hurt, but I think he's working through some things. With that being said, which offense, though, is going to show up? When Florida lost to South Florida, everybody pointed to, oh, man, they got away from Jaden Ball. They had penalties on touchdowns that got called back. DJ Lagway, even though he's got a 75% completion percentage, he hasn't looked good. The stats are a little bit misleading on what has happened in these first 2 games. Joe, which offense is going to be the less anemic? Because I don't see the explosives by either one of them. I see Brown, the freshman wide receiver, getting some touches. But, Joe, which defense is going to perform? This, for LSU, does scare me. Because I know you're coming in at Death Valley at night. Billy Napier is fighting for his head coaching life. This team rallied around him against you a year ago. Joe, remember the whole thing? It comes out, Billy Napier is going to remain our coach in 2025. They come out and beat LSU. Then they beat Ole Miss. Then they finish the season undefeated. From that point forward, after the Texas loss, you got to go take it to him up front. And Garrett's got to be Garrett. He's got to continue to show that he has growth. I don't think they looked prepared last week against Louisiana Tech at all. And can this LSU offense and this Florida offense find some form of identity? Now, you would say, well, Blake, I feel like I know the identity of Florida. Then what is it? Because jet sweeps, play action, getting DJ Lagway out on the move, getting under pressure is not working from him right now. Are you going to be able to find something, either offense, that you can have success in and win this game?
So there's 2 things that I think getting into the X's and O's of this and where either side can find success. I wrote down as the most important part with this for how this game transpires in the line of scrimmage. LSU's offensive line is going to get talked about the whole year until the end of the season, or at least until they have a stretch of consistency that it's a completely new unit and they're trying to figure out who are the best guys, who they can lean on the most. They had a pretty good game against Clemson, but you just talked about how there's some injury stuff that they're going through.
Hot take, I don't think they did. Hot take, I don't think that they did.
You didn't think they had a good game against Clemson?
Clemson. I don't.
You don't think, okay. Well, yep. The national perspective was that they were fine.
Right.
And if we want to be a little bit critical, they could have been better. They now have another challenge. Tyreek Sapp is a phenomenal pass rusher. And it sounds like there's hope that Caleb Banks will be back for this game. And if he is, he could be a game wrecker again like he was last year. I think that for LSU's sake, there's a real chance for them to really attack Florida's secondary. Florida's secondary not only showed inconsistencies, but they also weren't tackling. They gave up a lot of big plays off of broken tackles. You have 2 very shifty players in Aaron Anderson and Caden Durham at running back. Can those guys break tackles like the South Florida skill players did? On the other side, with Lagway, Blake, I think that one thing that needs to get brought up, as you just said there, that he hasn't been as good as I think everyone has hoped for. We got to remember that he was really banged up in the preseason. So these first 2 games were supposed to be his preseason games where he's getting getting into a rhythm. He's trying to figure things out. He can go out there and suck a little bit, and he's just trying to get a feel for what game action is going to be like, because he didn't get the full preseason like everybody else did. Problem was that last week it was against a really good G5 team.
Yeah.
And they got caught up. There's a shot, I would say, that we could see a very different version of DJ Lagway. There's a very good chance that he suddenly captures momentum and confidence and starts playing more freely. I think that's something that has to be talked about. We can't just, and I'm not saying you were doing this, but we can't just lean on the fact that he's been shaky, because there's a reason for it. He has not had the same amount of time to get ready for the start of the season like a normal quarterback does.
But he should know not to throw across his body in a critical situation and throw a pick. That's not.
Okay. I know. I get. If we're getting very specific, sure. There were
right.
Yeah.
But he's done it multiple times, and that's the thing, Joe, that I look at and say, okay, I could get behind what you're saying if it's not boneheaded decisions. Like, you got to know not to throw across your body, across field in a critical situation. I digress. I agree with pretty much everything you said, other than just some boneheaded decisions he's made. What can you do versus this LSU defense? And, Joe, the counter question to that, is this LSU defense for real? Because, Joe, they're only giving up 8 points a game. The only reason they gave up a touchdown last week was because they put in their entire second string and there was a blown coverage. Corner came on a blitz. He wasn't supposed to. Safety's not there. Bang, touchdown. They had another game where they forced 7 3-and-outs. They had another game where damn near the opponent didn't get across the 50-yard line. Defensively, they've been fine. The question I ask is, you got tested versus Clemson, who didn't have a run game. You didn't get tested versus Louisiana Tech, who still doesn't have a run game. This is going to be a physical war, an outright war up front. They're coming in here to punch you in the mouth. I'm really interested to see how LSU attacks and reacts to a physical rushing attack. But, Joe, I really do think that LSU is going to man up on the outside and say early, DJ, go beat us. Like, go beat us, because if you can, then we'll adjust. They're going to send pressure after him. If they're sending it after Klubnik, they're going to send it after you. Can DJ stand in there and make the big throws will be a big thing for them. But, Joe, I also got to question Napier on some of these decisions. Mm-hmm. Can Blake Baker find a way to get into his head the way that I thought Golish and staff did last week? Why did you go away from Ball? Ball had 50 or 45 yards in that opening drive. 45. He had 90, I think 94 total. Why did you go away from him? And then you're asking him to run on critical downs like 3rd and short. Of course they know you're running the football. I think that this game is so intriguing because Billy's fighting for his head coaching life. And this is a dangerous spot for them to be in. What I would tell you is I don't think LSU is overlooking them. I think they want a little bit of revenge after what happened a season ago. I got to flip it on the other side of the quarterback, though. Garrett has got to play better. I thought he was fine. I mean, he did some really good things against Clemson, but he turned around against Louisiana Tech and kind of laid an egg a little bit. Joy, again, the lack of offensive identity for LSU concerns me a little bit. I don't get what they're trying to do. Let me give an example. They're running counter weak against non-numbers. So, like, we come in here and say, well, there's an offensive line issue. Okay, well, let's break that down very quickly. You don't have the numbers and you're running the ball to the left side of the formation. Why? They're going to make the Louisiana Tech, if they have an extra number and an extra hat, they're going to get to you. I think that Alex Atkins, the offensive coordinator from Florida State, who's now the tight ends coach, I think he's going to have a little bit more involved in this run game. I think that they're going to throw some things at Florida that they did not see against Clemson and that they did not see against Louisiana Tech. I think in the second half, Brian Kelly even addressed this. They went way conservative. Let's get out of here. Let's score this last touchdown and get out of here. I think this one's going to be low scoring, which probably means that 90 points is going to get scored. But I think both defenses are really good. That Florida front seven is really good. This LSU front seven is really good. Does Death Valley at night give LSU the edge here and for them to hold on? might be a big point in this game.
I like the notion that you think this is going to be low scoring on FanDuel.
I do.
Over-under is at 48.5. And I think that's right. We've had defenses on both sides step up so far. The one thing I want to return to that you just brought up.
Garrett?
No, Napier. I think that it's the most important talking point with all this because of what they're dealing with and what they need to do in order to save their season, for him to save his job. And we already have evidence, as you discussed, of him rallying the team when they needed to. He very well could have been fired, should have been fired last year after the start that they had. I can't start slow again. They can't. They lose this game. There's a chance that they've got one win in September. This is one of their easier games, technically, but it's really not against LSU because of the insane stretch they have coming up, because all of them are hard. I think that if coming into this game, Blake, if the upset didn't happen last week, I might actually consider.
Don't do it.
No, wait.
LSU.
I would have easily picked LSU. I would have not even hesitated. I would have been like, I still think that LSU wins against this Florida team because they're at home. It's at night. It's in Baton Rouge. But I have to include why it's not a foregone conclusion because of the fact that they're fighting for their lives. You never want to go up against a coach who's back in the corner. You don't. And he's shown an ability to work his way out of it. That could be the biggest swinging point is this a rallying point for the team where they turn their year around really quickly, or does this just end up being a sinking point?
Great question. It's a great question. Look, I think both sides have very big things that they're trying to accomplish here. Let's just say hypothetically LSU wins, they're 3-0. They got Southeastern, my alma mater, next week. Joe, I mean, they want to get out of the month of September undefeated, because then you look at a situation and say, hey, we have 8 games left. We ain't going 4-4. I mean, at worst case scenario, we're losing 3 of them. Best, what we're shooting for is to at least get to 10-2 and make a playoff. Like, that is your ultimate goal here. We want to get to the playoffs. Sounds good. You got to get out of the month. This is a massive game for both sides for a lot of different reasons. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it again. Does 88 play? If 88 plays, I'm terrified, because I don't know unless you get the ball out of Garrett's hands quickly. The only thing that I would assume that LSU would do, and I'm not really guessing on this, try to get them gassed early and try to get Caleb Banks on the sidelines and get him gassed, and then start taking your shots, because he's not going to be, from a condition standpoint, he's not going to be ready to go from that vantage point.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it early and hit it late. Let's see what happens. All right.